Welcome back, baseball family. This week, we're going to have a conversation with Jim Edmonds. 9+ Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together. Welcome back, baseball family, to another episode of the Baseball Together podcast. I am Brig, and on the other side of the world today is the Brad man.
Somewhat
he's usually over here, and today he's over here.
On your left.
For those of you that don't know, he's on the opposite side of the screen for the YouTubers. That's how it goes. Anyway, we are going to skip current events again today. We have a great conversation that we want to share with you with a former big leaguer, current Bally Sports Cardinals TV analyst, and a great guy. So stay tuned for Jim Edmonds right now. Welcome back, baseball family. We have a very special guest for you today. We're excited to bring him on. 4-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glover, World Series champion, and owner of one of the greatest catches in MLB history. He's currently an analyst for the Cardinals TV. We have Jim Edmonds. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. You look like you're reading your notes over there, so I just want to
reading my notes.
I got to call you out a little bit on that. No, I'm kidding. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you being here. We are really excited to talk about a couple of things. Specifically, we want to know. We want to get let our fans know you a little bit better. So we're going to break the ice with a rundown that we do. You're going to be ready to get caught in a rundown, and we're going to rapid fire hit you with some questions. You ready?
Yep.
First question, what is your quest?
My quest is over. I just want to be left alone now. I don't have a quest. I don't have a quest. I'm trying to be a good father, a good husband, and a good person. That's my quest now. I tried the baseball thing. It worked out for a while, but this part of life is a lot tougher.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Really is.
All right. Next question. What is your favorite color?
Red for the Cardinals.
Awesome. If the Cardinals were a beverage, what would they be?
Tequila. Is that family friendly?
Yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, that's fair.
Diet Coke or tequila?
Maybe tequila in a Diet Coke.
And just ice.
Right.
Besides original, what is the best sunflower seed flavor?
Oh man, gosh, I really don't like them. I guess I could deal with barbecue the most. I got kids, man, and my son, he's got the dill pickle and the ranch and they have fire. Like I can't even. I'm just like, don't they just have the old school David with the little red and blue or whatever it is? And now I go in there and I'm like, do you guys have sunflower seeds? And they're like, yeah, they're right there. I'm like, oh, those are sunflower seeds. There's so many different kinds, it's unbelievable.
It's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. Other than your sunflower seed opinion, do you have another unpopular opinion?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's on my mind. I guess because I turn on Fox News every morning or all the news channels. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of what's going on in the world right now. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is sad. Yeah. Is there a maximum allowable age that it's appropriate for an adult to bring a baseball glove to a baseball game?
No. Well, okay, that's two different angles on this. I would say no before. But now the net. So I would say that you don't need a baseball glove if you're, sitting down low. But no, I think that, yeah, I'm going to go backwards. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe as a grown man, I think you don't need a glove if you're a grown man, right? What do you guys think?
I'm talking about it all the time.
I'm going to go with like 18. 16? Okay. I don't know. My son doesn't take a glove to the games, and he's 16. So I think he either get out of the way or own it. But I have one piece of advice for everyone out there. Do not try to catch a foul ball that is coming in hot. Get out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Good question.
Follow-up question on that, though. What if you are sitting in the outfield, though? Is that coming in pretty hot out there? I mean, I've honestly never caught a home run ball, so I don't know how fast that's coming in. It seems like it'd be coming in pretty quick.
Well,
I've got little like girly hands, and I don't want to break a finger.
You don't look like you have girly hands with that. You know that maybe that beard. Is he hiding behind that beard? Yeah.
Yeah. Compensating.
No, I think that you can handle it. I don't think that it's going to be an easy catch, but it, by all means, it's slowing down a little bit.
Awesome.
Good to know.
I'm going to use that on the broadcast, though. I like that question. I'm going to ask Danny that.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love it.
My next question is, what is your favorite baseball movie?
I think Bull Durham, maybe. I think it's really the only one I've really gotten through. Some of the other ones that are far-fetched, I think it's the closest one to maybe being real. I love Kevin Costner. He's a friend of mine. He's from Southern California. Gotten to meet him a bunch. And so, I really like his movies. But I really think Bull Durham is probably as close, as realistic as you can get.
Like start to finish or just the baseball parts?
Kind of the whole, I don't know about start to finish, but the good portion of it. Like even the whole thing with the mom housing the players. I don't know about the relationship part, but it seems a little awkward with Nick Lelouch or whatever his name is. Nick Lelouch.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the whole thing, like, guys meet like that. What is her name? Millie, and they get married right there in the field, and then the baseball part, and then guys trying to, figure out a way to get a day off with the rain delay and the sprinklers and the drinking and the bus rides and the fights and all that. Yeah, I think it's pretty realistic. It really is. Yeah, I think he did a really nice job capturing, even though what people probably don't think it's real, but pretty good job.
That's awesome.
Love it. If baseball was an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
That's a really strange question. I don't know. I can't answer that one. I guess skip. Let's come back to that one.
Okay.
All right.
I want to know the thought of that one.
Would you sign a petition to have Rob Manfred decommissioned?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's his fault what goes on in the world today with baseball, or if it's just the baseball path that's been created over time. I try not to get involved in that stuff. I actually, to be honest with you, don't. When I go home, I shut it down. I didn't follow the strike. People kept asking me what's going on and the lockout and all that, because it kind of just goes up and down so much each day. I just felt like, and even when I played, I didn't really pay attention to all the offseason moves. I just figured when it's time to go to work, I'll know who's on my team. When it's time to go to work now, I'll know that where my broadcasts are going to be, and I'll go from there. I don't like to get caught up in all of that stuff. So I'm going to say no. I wouldn't. I don't think we need a new commissioner just as yet, because I think anyone else out there is probably going to be stuck in the same boat. I think the baseball issues have been the issues of time. The one thing I do not like is change. I think they're trying too hard to change the sport to make it something else. And I just, it's kind of like watching the NFL now. If you kind of touch the quarterback, even though I think it's important to protect the quarterback, especially with the speed of the game now, I think that they need to tighten it up a little bit. And same with baseball. I think they need to go back to some of the rules and kind of just baseball's baseball. You can't, it's not meant to be sped up or slowed down, or, the double play thing drives me insane. Even though the double plays that our team turns they're unbelievable, because now you throw the ball to second base at any time and it can't be broken up. So I guess if you have a team like that, you want to see the second baseman saved. But I also think that the old school ways of getting a run across, breaking up a double play is part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
awesome.
actually had a guest on last week that kind of changed our thought on the commissioner. That we've been our lane for a long time had been that he does need to be out as commissioner, but we kind of softened on that. So
tell me why. I'd like to hear this. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, he said that it was the owners. He's basically an employee of the owners,
Yeah.
and they're calling the shots. He's kind of the scapegoat figurehead, and we're all calling for his head on a pike, but we don't have the full information. That's basically what we said.
That's actually really true. And if you think about that, how bizarre is the fact that the commissioner of baseball is run by the ownership and not a group? And that's why I was saying time has put that man there. Even when Bud Selig was there, no one really liked him, but he was just doing what he was told to do. Yeah. And, the strikes and the lockouts and stuff are going to happen. I wish they would, I wish they could figure out a way to manage it where it's just on an escalating scale and a percentage that will stay in place for, say, 20 years. Because I think the fans don't want to see this every 2 and 3 and 4 years. And the one thing, too, also is, there's so many things that can be honed in as far as the salary caps and the money spent versus money taken in. And then the players are asking to up the minimum salary from, say, $550 to $8 or whatever. It's pennies compared to all of the other stuff that comes after you make your mark. So I see it in both ways. And I just think there's too much asking on both sides to just kind of keep the game flowing for the sake of the game. But I do agree with whoever that was, as he is just a kind of a little bit of a figurehead.
Yeah. Which current MLB pitcher would you take yard, and not just yard, but the deepest?
Man, I don't know. I've learned to respect the game a little bit more, but I'm gonna say Adam Wainwright, just because he's my buddy, and I'd love to hit a home run off of him.
That's great. That's great.
I owe him. He struck me out a couple times when I was with the Brewers, so I owe him one.
Last question for you: what baseball movie needs to be made? Is there a storyline that you've been a part of or have always loved that really just needs to be made into a film?
The thing with baseball is the in the past was so wide open. I don't know if you could let everyone know what was going on behind the scenes. I love the Ricky and Keel story, the book. I think the minor leagues, the real minor league story would be cool if someone that maybe went through the minor leagues for 10, 11 years and then got called up. You see it starting to happen a little bit more. But I also think the Latin story, I think, is important. I think the Cuban story would be amazing. We were just doing a thing. Jorge Soler was just here with us playing against the Cardinals. And, I believe the story was he was 18 and him and his father took a boat over to get out of Cuba. I mean, can you imagine that story? And I think they're on the boat for a while, not just a day or two. Mm-hmm. And, they risked everything, and there's a few of those guys. I think that, when those players actually still talk about it, tears come to their eyes of what the opportunity opens up and the chances that their family could still be punished back in Cuba. I think that's an interesting story. I think the minor league to get to the big leagues over time is a good one, but I think that the Latin story, even the Dominican and the Edgar Renteria in Colombia, but the Cuban story is pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah,
those would be awesome. I hadn't even thought about that. That'd be great.
Edgar Renteria told me that they would hit a bottle cap with a broomstick, and his glove was a milk carton growing up. So I think those are untouched.
Yeah, they are.
That's awesome.
Well, that's a great one to end on. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty and everything with Jim Edmonds.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back with me. Root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Shop kids' baseball shirts at 9plusS.com.
The None Other Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Non-Letter Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back, baseball family. Again, we are here with Jim Edmonds, former big leaguer, current TV analyst for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jim, I got to tell you, the catch, right, with the Angels. How does it feel to be known for one of the greatest, if not the greatest catch in Major League Baseball? Like, it's awesome. It's so cool.
It's pretty cool. I really think that, put it in perspective too, is after I made the play, I ran into Willie Mays the next year.
No way.
Yeah. And so Barry Bonds introduces me to Willie Mays in the tunnel in a giant stadium. It was a Candlestick when both teams were still on the same side. And he says, Jim Edmonds, this is Willie Mays. Willie, this is Godfather or whatever. And says, I heard you made some kind of catch. And I was just like, yeah, nice to meet you, But it's kind of cool. It's interesting. Every time around this year that, the anniversary, or you get some kind of highlights, and, it's interesting. I think it's something that at least hasn't gone away with time. I mean, there's so many good plays. It's flattering. It really is. I mean, I think it was a pretty good catch. And, there's others that are out there that are pretty good too. And, they're all different degrees of difficulty. Just saw one the other night where the kid, I can't even think of where he was. He just got called up. I think he was in Milwaukee, and he dove and he literally hit the wall with his face, as he hit the ground. And so those kind of things, man, those are gnarly. And just to be involved in that, I think is pretty cool. At least you have some kind of legacy in overtime. The home runs go away a little bit unless you hit a big one. And it's pretty cool.
What happens in that moment? Does kind of your auto instinct take over? Is that something you're tracking the whole way? Is it a combination of both? Like how does that even take place?
Yeah. I learned at an early age that defense was just as important. And, I just got caught shallow on a hanging curveball. And I think the tying run and winning run were on base. And even though it was in July, or June, I think. What month are we in right now? Who knows? June, yeah. Can't keep it straight. And I realized, I was just like, if I don't catch this ball, the game's we're gonna be losing, or we're gonna lose. And so I just took off and ran. And the way it was lofted in the air, I turned the wrong way a little bit to get back, and I could remember it kind of tailing back over my head, and I could see it because it was kind of coming straight down. It's like if you're playing football, you can kind of watch the ball all the way. And even though you can tell it's going over, it can, you can switch sides. And it's kind of what happened. I knew where it was going to be and knew how it was coming down, and just thought I'd take a chance. And I made a play very similar to it in Venezuela 2 years prior. And so I was like, well, I just got to catch this ball any way possible. And then when it hit my glove, all I could think of was, do not let this pop out, because we just wasted. Can you imagine if it rolled out? It would be like, it wouldn't even be the greatest catch never to be made. It would just never be on a show ever again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because didn't you make that a similar catch in St. Louis as well?
Well, there was a couple going back up against the wall, or jumping on the wall. But yeah, I mean, I think that just basically I loved being able to go out there and play defense, because offense is so difficult. You're relying on a good pitch, hit a ball hard, no one being around on the field to catch it, where defense is just you, and it's just basically, I always tell the young guys now, it's just a want to. You have to want to play defense if you want to be good. So that's kind of the way I looked at it.
I loved playing defense. I was always so nervous getting in the box, but man, when we went out on defense, I was so much more comfortable. I loved it
too. Yeah.
Well, my first year in Anaheim full time. So my second year, Marcel Latchman said, hey, you're a center fielder. And I started hitting like 230. And he said, you keep playing defense, I'm not taking you out of the lineup. And so that gave me the confidence and gave me the the realization that this is just as important as hitting. And so that's why I kind of took that all in stride and tried to raise my game.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
So you talked about hold on, Brig. I want to tell on something he said here about a game in June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we hear, oh, it's just a game in May, it's just a game in April. Is there as much emphasis put on games in the first 50 games of the season as there are the last 50 games of the season, or is there more urgency to win those in those last 50?
I would think that around the league, I would say that the urgency comes up late. But in St. Louis, the urgency is from day one. And I think that's what separates good teams from average teams is, and the one thing that I did learn was, you win that game in April, May, June that you don't have to win in September and October or September because you've already taken care of it. And then that gives you that 2 or 3 extra game lead. And then when you get down the stretch, the teams that are younger and less experienced don't know how to win those games. And so when they're trying to catch up, they're not able to keep it together for 6 months window. And so you take advantage of that too. So it's kind of like this edge that you have that La Russa taught us that, hey, instead of going into extra innings and hoping the game ends, it's like going to extra innings, trying to win and get it over with and pay attention to these things. And then in September, you're not going to be grinding it out with all the teams that are not as good as you because you've already put them, way back in the standings. So yeah, I think in St. Louis and probably in a couple other places, the importance is winning all the time.
Yeah, that's something we talk about too all the time, is that like I feel like there's teams in April where they won't put in a pinch runner.
Yeah.
When they should. It's like that could be the difference between you making the playoffs and missing. And it gets frustrating as a fan sometimes.
Well, yeah, and the fine line, I think the fine line with that too is also as we as fans get caught up in that when there might be the thought process as if I burn this guy now and we go to extra innings. And sometimes that's why they wait till they get to second base or, why you see, certain things. I'm still learning every day because of what the knowledge that we don't have watching, especially for us in the booth. This the other day, it came up, a story came up where we had an opportunity to, I think Albert was coming up third and they pinched hit the first 2 guys, and it was either Gorman or Donovan. And I said, I would use Donovan. There's a guy on first and no one out or 1 out, and it's the winning run. And I said, Donovan, then Gorman. And I went downstairs and Ollie said, no, it's Gorman, Donovan because of this. And I didn't realize, but Donovan hits the ball on the ground more often than Gorman does. That's one thing that we don't know. And so they have those stats there, and it was like a 15% difference chance that Donovan would hit a ball on the ground versus Gorman. And so they flipped the pinch hitting, even though that you'd think Gorman would give you a better at bat. But he said, guy on base, Gorman, no guy on base, Donovan. And so just like that, I think that we as fans don't really understand how much is going into every decision.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's kind of eye-opening for me that how much further it goes when you're down there, even though if you're on the field, you understand it, but it's things you forget just watching casually.
It's really cool to hear that you're still learning about the game, that you're still, able to learn and engaged in it. I mean, because it is a lifelong thing, right? Both learning is a mentality, right? It's not just something we go and do. How have you taken that from the field to your current role as an analyst?
Well, I just feel like those are the things you learn from talking to the manager or talking to people downstairs that, you would only know if you have their information. But it's to me, my job of basically, just like what we were just talking about, is to educate the fans on, I know this is probably a great spot to pinch run, but if you burn this guy in the 8th inning, if they bring in so-and-so in the 9th, you don't have that pinch hitter. And very few times does that guy end up either coming around to score or getting thrown out because he can't run. So, there's sometimes it backfires, but I think the thought process is always what's the next move, unless it's right there, bottom of the 9th, and you're losing by a run.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, you alluded to this, but it sounds like part of your role is to make the game more accessible to the fans in your current role right now. Is that the angle you've been asked to take, or is that something you've taken upon yourself?
Well, as an analyst, you're supposed to explain the game to the people at home. And my thing is, I think you can see what's going on, right? So why am I explaining it? And I think everyone watching games talks too much. So I feel like I sit back and wait for an opportunity. And sometimes it's just pointing things out. And sometimes there's a teaching moment. It's funny. I talked to John Jay yesterday. He played the outfield for a long time, and he was doing college games. And we were talking about doing TV. And he said, I found it was really interesting when you get a teaching moment. So you can explain why, when, why, how, what, whatever. And I thought, that's kind of my favorite part too, is because, I could be talking to you, or I could be talking to my 16-year-old son, or I could be talking to an 80-year-old diehard that just really hasn't heard that angle before. And sometimes I just sit there and watch the game, so I try to let the game play. And then I try to just explain a little bit of what I see. I was told to go to work, don't look at a lot of notes, tell us what's going on between those white lines that day at that time. And, it's not always easy to get a lot of words in, to not get a lot of words in. But I said something the other day, and Danny looked over at me and he said, tell him why. Like whispered, why? And I was like, oh, light went on. People are wanting to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, that pitch is tough. Like, why is it tough? So yeah, it's a lot. It's. I think if you approach it that way, you kind of get a little bit more analytic about what's going on that we're watching.
Well, we as fans appreciate it, honestly, because we love to sit and listen, and we want the insider information. We want the deep stories. We want the justification why or why not. That's some of our favorite reasons we watch or even listen to radio broadcast teams. We choose them based on how much information we're getting.
Do you guys watch football?
Yeah.
So my favorite analysts are now Tony Romo. I think he does a really nice job, which I didn't think he would. Yeah. And Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
And Chris Collinsworth is really good at explaining what's happening after or during, like obviously he handed the ball off, but he talks about like you see a running back or an offensive tackle push his block to the next guy and then move upfield to get this guy. It's why he sprung. It wasn't just the blockers on the line, right? It was because one guy did two different things that maybe he wasn't supposed to do, but he did because he's so much better than everyone else. And I started watching the game in a different light, and it's pretty awesome. You think about like all the little things that you watch, and you're kind of like, I wonder why, or you just don't even think of, and you see those guys on TV, and you're like, wow, that's interesting. It's just another level, and you watch it at another level. And I think Romo does a nice job, and that's the analyst. I love listening to Joe Buck, but when you see him and Troy Aikman, you see him take the game to that next little thing, and they do such a nice job with their TV because they can really get highlights quickly and replays, and I think it's pretty cool. And so that's kind of, I feel like trying to get to the next level.
Yeah, that's awesome. But speaking of kind of having like the inside, I mean, you're a player. We weren't. I peaked in high school as far as baseball is concerned. But we had a big brawl this weekend in Anaheim between Seattle and LA, I guess you can call them. We call them Anaheim still. But
me too.
Good.
Let's call them
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Don't let Artie hear that though.
The thing we're curious about though, like, is there ever any actual rage in a base brawl, or is it just mostly pent up frustration? Like both teams had really been struggling up to that point.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole thing with Mike Trout Saturday night, so like, were they legitimately like mad at each other, or is it just like, we got to get this out of our system?
Well, I think it's emotions, and I think you don't like to be thrown at, and so one guy, and you feel it in the dugout when that's going on. You don't necessarily want to fight. No one wants to get hurt, but there's two ways to look at it. There's the one guy who's pissed, pitcher's just doing what he's told. The guy's getting thrown at, he's mad. Catcher's sticking up for, his pitcher. And then you might have other guys in the dugout on the other side that have been thrown at, they're pissed. But then you'll get a couple guys that are like grown up fighting, or, you get a couple of the guys that are, just don't have any etiquette, and they might go take cheap shots, or a guy that is really mad might keep fighting. And so that makes other guys mad, and then they get in there to break it up, and guys start swinging, and other guys take, see a bad angle and think someone's, and it just kind of spills over. And then once tempers flare, it's hard to back down. So that's normally why you see a lot of pushing and shoving, and very rarely do you see the extended version like you did the other day. But I think that's just, there's some teams that are really adamant about sticking up for each other, and then there's some teams that might have a different group of people that have been, in that kind of background where they don't mind fighting. And so you never know what's going on. I've been in a few where there's been some punches thrown, and I've been in a few where nothing's been thrown, and then a sucker punch was thrown, and then all heck breaks loose. So there's a kind, there's a dynamic to most of them. And usually it's just like one guy's just protecting another guy. But if there's a group of guys that are getting hit and one guy maybe just doesn't realize that, hey, it's your turn, you're getting payback, and then he takes exception, there's like 8 guys over there going, well, what about us? And so basically people are just yelling out of the dugout. You hardly ever see what happened, which is what they did. Jesse Winkler kind of went that way, and so I didn't really see the detail of it, but I did see the fight. It was pretty hairy.
Yeah, it was pretty hairy.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, we've started seeing, this happens all the time. We see clubhouse dynamics and chemistry kind of bleed out into the dugout, and guys fight with each other in the dugout, and tempers rise and frustrations get out of hand. Was there ever a guy in your career that you were like, oh man, this guy, like, I don't want to, just can't stand seeing this guy, whether he's in my bench or the other bench, it doesn't matter.
Well, there's always guys that irritate you, right? But I think that we've done a really nice job of keeping our team kind of in check. And I think that the one thing that the Cardinals do is they, you establish the veterans, and they kind of have the rule. And I think that guys follow suit because we have a bunch of professionals. And, I would imagine that can be some guys that maybe take that role a little too far, or, we've had a couple cases I've heard where, one guy's picking on another guy and they finally had enough. And, I think that you saw the thing with in Philly a couple years ago with I think of Bryce Harper, and guys, some older guys take exception to guys maybe not hustling or guys doing a certain thing, and if the younger player has a chip on his shoulder, you might get a talk back, and it just depends on who you're talking to. But we've never really had that here in St. Louis as long as I've been here, and still to this day it's pretty good. So really good chemistry is important. And I think this team right now has it in St. Louis this year. And I think it's interesting to watch. It's fun because I'm on the plane with them every night traveling, and it's pretty cool to watch because they're good kids.
Yeah. We talk about St. Louis a lot and how it's just their perennial successes, and they win. They just know how to win baseball games, and they win all the time. And it's awesome.
It's a culture, it really is. It's like the Yankees. I think that, they build culture. They're building it in LA right now. Again, I think even though when you don't win, you build this culture of baseball and athletes that respect each other, respect the game, play hard, and you're going to get good results, especially if I think I was saying this the other day, the culture is hard to build when you do what some of these teams do is you never keep any of your veterans. So you don't have anyone there older than, say, 26 to pass down. You don't have a Molina, Wainwright, a Pujols, even a Carpenter, to pass down what they've been taught in that organization. And when you look at like a Pittsburgh or say even a Tampa Bay or a couple other places, like the one thing they're missing is that they have good players, but the culture is different because they don't have a 37-year-old, 35-year-old, 33-year-old guy who's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
The Marlins, they tend to pass those guys along when they can, trade for other guys, which is great. But then you have now put together a group of kids from all over the country and all over the baseball. And so where's the culture? Very hard for the manager to be responsible for setting a culture with 25 different personalities if there's not some guy or 2 or 3 in that locker room 24/7 breathing that same culture. And so the manager can't do it by himself, and kids get tired of listening to it. So you got to have players in there that are willing to replicate that same idea.
Do you ever see that that's the rub between front office management and the Clubhouse Dynamics? Does it start there? Because like you said, it would be hard for the manager to kind of keep the ship afloat if the front office is always making these changes for him. And so, yeah, what do you do about that? You
can't. And that's the problem, is that's your culture. If you want culture, your front office has to understand it, and I think our front office has understood it for a long time. We have great ownership. I know that when I was here playing, Walt Jocketty was our general manager. You knew he wanted to win, and he cared about you. He'd call you in the winter. He would ask you, you played against so-and-so and so-and-so, which one of these guys would you want to have on your team? That goes a long way with players. And then he comes down after games and says, hey, nice job, or hey, it'll be all right, or I know you're playing hard, don't worry about it. And you can feel that, It helps when you don't just have the manager on your side, and you can see the general manager and the owner and different owners coming down and supporting. And it really does. It changes the way you feel about an organization. But I still believe, like I said, if you don't keep guys around, and you don't have a consistent managerial, in group, it's very hard to build a culture over, a 10-year window, because you look at half these teams, they don't have anyone on their team from 5 years ago, let alone, Wainwright from 14 years ago, and Yachty, and I could see like Matt Carpenter was just here for 10 years. And, if you don't have any of that, it's very hard to build a culture.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, as somebody who doesn't play professional baseball, that's one thing that I looked for in a job is consistency and turnover. I mean, I feel like it's just anywhere you work. But as far as like the culture of the team,
you'll find that in your own business, right?
Yeah,
if you were in a radio show and not doing your own podcast, you're always going to have somebody that doesn't believe in what you're trying to do, or trying to push you into certain things, and you're just like, no, that doesn't work. But this is what we want you to do. And you're just like, all right, like whatever. So
yeah, exactly.
In there. Everyone was in the Army for a long time.
Jeez, let's take it to another level. Well, at least you have culture, right? You have like, they're all going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But as far as like teams with culture, like, was there ever a team that was like on your radar, like, I would love to play for those guys? Or were there other teams you're like, I am not going anywhere near those guys? You tell your agent, if they call, hang up, or just let it go to voicemail.
I only did that twice, or two teams, and I won't say who, because of the weather and the ballpark. But other than that, no. And I was very blessed to just go from Anaheim to St. Louis. I had no choice, but I got thrust into something that couldn't be better. It couldn't have been a better situation. I'm still living here. I mean, you can see over my shoulder, and it's just, it's amazing. Like, I loved Anaheim. I grew up there. It was my home. But something about growing up and playing in the different era of your life, career one thing, but life, as you get an adult, get more experiences. I feel like when you're playing and you're still in your 20s, you're not really getting it. I feel like you watch some of these young kids, they come up early, and I keep saying, oh, he's just 26. And that's, oh, he's been in the leagues 5 years or 4 years. I'm like, it's not enough. It's not, the season goes by really fast. And unless you change things in the off season, it's really hard to build as a player. And so I felt like I really grew between the years I was here, and it really stuck with me. And then, I don't know, you can kind of see behind me, you can see I don't know how I point at it, but the Stanley Cup right there, and like the people here, you get, there's Brett Hull with the Stanley Cup, and just the friendships and the people here in St. Louis just made it so awesome. And so when I had kids, I stayed here, and I'm happy here. We travel because the weather's not always great, but
right.
It's just part of my life now.
Yeah, that's awesome. My first duty station was Fort Leonard Wood, so I know all about that. Yeah. That cold. It gets cold.
Yeah. It's hot too.
That's true. So we want to talk for just a few more minutes about the minor league. It's a grind. It's really tough. And, obviously most guys don't make it out of the minor league. So is the system set up to help guys succeed? Is kind of a throwaway question, but I want an answer to it. But then the real question is it worth it? Is the way it's set up and the system itself truly worth all of the grind and everything it takes from you?
Well, I think I would have to look at it 2 different ways. So like when I went through the minor leagues, I didn't really know anything about the system. I mean, we're talking about late 80s, didn't even know anything about the draft. And then that's just part of the system. I think now as guys get older, you start to see guys that are, when you go through college, you don't stay in the minor leagues as long. They're looking for guys now to make an impact right away. I think the system has changed. So guys rush through faster, but also at the same time, it's a decent, now they can make a decent amount of money playing baseball, even if you don't get called up, probably more than most guys will make, changing tires or, driving for UPS. I don't know, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I think it can be worth the grind, but I think it's all in your own heart. I don't know how guys do it for 11 years, 10, 11 years, bouncing around. The travel, even at the upper levels, is by plane, but you're still getting up at 4 a.m, traveling day of games. It's not glamorous. You're away from your family. It's hard to have a family when you're living in, I played in Edmonton for, a couple months, in Vancouver, across the border again. And, we've got guys from California playing in Buffalo and where else in the world. So, yeah, I think it's not glamorous. I think it's changed a lot. Like I said, you're getting a lot of guys out of college now that kind of bounce right through, and you're drafting arms, a lot of the arms and guys that are almost ready. And that's a big deal. So I don't think the grind is out there anymore unless you want it. But the one thing I did realize is also teams draft to fill teams. They're not always drafting to get a guy right to the big leagues. They'll sometimes draft a team. They're looking for 2, 3 left-handed hitters. They're looking for pitchers. They're looking for this. Yeah, they are looking for the 1 and 2, 3 round guys that are going to make an impact instantly. But all the way down through, they're looking to fill voids in the minor leagues. And some of those guys just flourish and take off. And some of those guys just fill the void to throw teams on the field for 5 and 6 years. So hopefully you recognize which one you are, and you get a chance to move up. And if you don't, it's like an age bracket. Like when you're above 23, you're not an A-ball anymore. And if you haven't moved up, you're probably not going to get a chance. And that same age now in AA, it's like there's kids in the big leagues that are the majority of the kids in the big leagues now are 26 to 22. It's crazy. Every time I look at another kid, I'm like, he's 23, he's 22, he's 26. This guy's been around forever. He's 26. I'm like, yeah. So the game's a lot younger. But I think the minor leagues is, you have to go through it. You have to experience it. And you, as a high school player, just pick. Are you going to go to college for 3 or 4 years? Or are you going to go, or if you have the opportunity to sign for a lot of money that might change your life and to go to the minor leagues, or go to college, get an education that could change your life if you don't make it. So, it's like anything else. I think you got to pick your path and what works for you. I slept on some floors, on some buses. I slept in when I was really in the minor leagues early, I was still kind of small. And so I slept on the overhead luggage rack a couple of times. That stuck up there. And I spent my 21st birthday on a bus from Palm Springs to Reno, Nevada for 14 hours. So,
whoa, man.
Looking back, that was part of it.
Yeah.
And to get here, I was 17 when I got drafted. So to get here is what I needed to do. Because college wasn't, didn't work for me. So I think it's cool. Yeah. I think it's, it's all a story.
Yeah.
So as far as the route that guys take, would you recommend somebody go to the minor leagues instead of college? Or do you think that for some guys, college is the developmental route? As far as take the education out of it, just strictly baseball development, which way would you recommend for somebody?
I think it's either way. I think I would look at it the other way as the education. Is the education for you? Are you the school type? Because I think you'll get more baseball in the minor leagues because you're playing every day. You're getting almost as much baseball in college, but school is there, so you have to juggle. So I wouldn't say one or the other is better, but I also think that if you're not a school person, yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? If I don't want to go to college for 3 years, and put in that work, then it's not for you, because it definitely going to school now and skipping classes and getting fake grades is not out there anymore. You know, it's not that life, and you got to keep up and do both and bring home homework and take stuff on the road, and you're missing school and you got to catch up. So I think it's changed a lot. And I really think personality wise is, can you handle school or not? I think you're going to get developed. You're going to get developed both ways. I look at now, one of the guys that I played AA with is now the head Stanford coach. Another guy that I played against my whole career is the Arizona coach. You know, it just, you go through and all these guys are ex big league players. They're going to teach you, you know, it's a, you know, look at Matt Holliday's at Oklahoma, you know, as an assistant coach. And so you're going to get that, you're going to get that knowledge one way or the other. It's just, like I said, what is school for you or not?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Great. Last question for you, not baseball related, actually. You're getting married, and you've decided to get married in Italy. So congratulations!
Congratulations on your homework. Yeah, she just brought me this.
Oh wow,
nice!
I've been on the phone all morning, and so she knows I haven't eaten, and so
why Italy? First of all,
well, I've been married before, and she has not. And I just thought it feels different. It feels better. It feels right. And I said, what would you like to do? Let's do something different. And we don't want a lot of people. So let's see, how far can we go away where people won't want to go? And you know what's really crazy is a lot of people want to go. And I'm like, wait, you sure you want to go all the way to Italy? But no,
I'd be like, twist my arm.
I didn't realize that people like to go to Italy. So the other reason too is playing baseball, for me, I never really traveled, and I've never been over there. I've never been to Europe. I've never been to Paris. I've never been to Italy. I've never been to Greece. You know, I've never seen anything. So it was kind of my introduction to, okay, it's time to start traveling over there, and why not? Let's check it out. And it's really funny, is someone said, if you're going to go to Italy in this area, she loves Lake Como, and so I know some people over there, and I said, where would you like to go? And her side and my side both said, stay at this hotel if you can. It's booked. It's gonna be impossible, but this is where you want to stay. And it's like, a friend of mine and George Clooney are good friends, and I said, can you ask him where he would stay? And he goes, well, I'm over there all the time with him, so I know what he's gonna say. So my fiance calls, and we said, this is what we want to do, and they're like, yeah, we're booked. I'm like, we figured. And then they called back and said, we have one day open where you can have the whole weekend, one day to get married, but we have rooms this whole weekend. And we're just like, sold. Done. And it's like, that's awesome. So I went to my bosses at TV for Valley Sports, and I said, okay, well, I have good news and bad news. And they're like, well, what's the bad news? It's like, well, the good news is I'm getting married. The bad news is it's in the last 2 weeks of the season, because it's the only time we can do it. So I need to quit working on September 20th. Oh, no. And they were like, oh, no. And they were looking at me, and it was just at the time where it was just me and Brad from now on. And they're like, okay, we got to check and see if Brad can work the last 2 weeks straight. And I said, well, you're going to have to find somebody else if not. And she just walked in, and she's looking at me like, so it was all her choice. I gave her whatever. No, I'm kidding. That's gonna be fun. Yeah. So we got the hotel, and it's on the lake, and I think it'll be really special.
That's awesome.
Cool. That'll be really cool.
For real, congratulations.
For real.
For real. We both endorse marriage wholeheartedly. So
yeah, we do.
Good. Then I can grow my beard out and like disappear, right?
That's right.
There you go.
You can hide your hands.
Yeah. I don't think she would go for that.
But thank you. Right now. Thank you so much again for coming on with us. We really appreciate having you, Jim. This was excellent, fantastic conversation. Was there anything you wanted to plug while you're on, or anything like that, or?
No, not really.
All right.
Don't have anything to plug. Yeah. Half the time. Only when I'm working, not when Brad's working.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Get your ratings up. When you write that book, let us know, and we'll have to have you come back on.
Oh, yeah.
Just that book. Yeah. Whatever that book is.
I'm actually I've been approached, that it wasn't basically about me. It was more about like what I would tell the younger me. And I thought, might be an interesting concept, but I don't know. I'm not been I don't really feel like I'm a about me kind of guy. So I'm just like, I don't know if I want to like subject myself to, more people telling me I suck. You know what I mean? Like, already had enough of that for 17 years. So you stand out in center field in Chicago and New York, you'll hear it enough.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. But thank you again so much for having us. Hopefully we can have you back on another time.
Anytime. Thank you. Have a good day, you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, baseball family, thank you again for joining us for that amazing interview. We had a whole lot of fun talking to Jim Edmonds. We hope you had a whole lot of fun listening to it. But let us know, like we say every single time, who else you would like to hear from. We're serious. If there's somebody you want us to get on the show, let us know. Jump in the mailbag on baseballtogether.com or hit the link down in the description of every single episode, audio, video, all of it. It's always there. There's always a link in the description, just like there's always money in the banana stand.
Always. Brad, I got to tell you, it was hard for me to not eat sunflower seeds during that interview. Not because of the interview, just because of the sunflower seeds. I am pounding my most recent bag of Chinook Seedery's Parmesan and Pepper. I opened a new bag, and I think we should do a giveaway for our listeners.
You're right.
But for those of you who want to try your own, they have a sample pack, and you can get 10% off the sample pack. Actually, you get 10% off everything at Chinook Seedery and using code BTPOD. And we're going to put together that giveaway and bring it to you because you guys deserve it. Best seeds ever.
Yeah, awesome. ChinookSeedery.com, BTPod at checkout. Check it out. You save money and help the podcast.
Cool.
But also, the other way you can support the podcast, or another way you can support, is on Patreon. Jump on, become a patron, and we call you our rooters because we root together, right, for the home team and whatever. Anyway, there are 3 tiers, $5, $10, and $15 a month tiers that come with a T-shirt, hat, whatever. It's a lot of fun, and you get the bullpen cut, so you get to see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Jim Edmonds that we could not air on the regular episode because we like to keep things family-friendly. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I think the bullpen cut is. I think that alone is worth it, but that's just my opinion.
It's a good opinion, Brad. It's a good opinion. Don't forget, also, you can support the support the show by jumping on the shop at 9plusus.com. That's NINEPLUS.com. Got my 42 T-shirt on today. I think Brad's wearing what? Pirate baseball? Is that what I said?
Pirate baseball.
Pirate baseball. Anyway, we got more stuff coming. More stuff is going as we continue to clean stuff up. So jump on and grab yourself some baseball merch and help support the show that way as well. Baseball or at 9plusus.com. You can get there at baseballtogether.com too.
You can. That's true. There's a link there for you. Yeah, absolutely. And please like, subscribe, rate, review. Let us know about what you think. Share your comments on YouTube and anywhere else that you can. And baseball family, thank you again so much for joining us. We appreciate your listenership, and we will catch you next week.